Hi everybody, and welcome to my channel. In this episode, I'm going to talk about what happens to sex offenders in prison. A lot of me viewers have been asking us on videos about this and seeing what actually happens to sex offenders when they get put in prison. Do they get put on protection? Do they get what a lot of people might think is justice served, and do they get attacked whilst they're in prison? And a lot of people, obviously, that haven't been to prison are curious to see what actually happens to these people whilst they're in prison. So sex offenders, normally when they go to prison from the courts, as soon as they get put into reception, as in Durham, you've got two waiting areas. You can still see through the perspex glass into the waiting area that's further down the corridor. But what they normally do is, as soon as they get off the bus, they go into reception, the screws look on the file, they see what they're actually in for, and they segregate the people into two separate rooms. They put the sex offenders in one room, then they put the normal location lads in the other room, obviously so they don't have to mix them, because they used to mix them, and I'll tell you what used to happen to them. But now that they keep them segregated after reception, the sex offenders, I'll refer to them as, or the pedos, or the bacons, they get sent onto a different wing, the protection wing, which in Durham is now F wing. And believe it or not, it was the best wing in the prison. And this seems to happen in all the prisons. The sex offenders get the better luxury options in prison. And what I mean by that is, F wing in Durham was the newest wing, the most modern wing, bigger pads, a better house block altogether. The enhanced prisoners used to be on there, and the enhanced prisoners are the ones that just see lads that have behaved themselves, they haven't been fighting, they have kept out of trouble, get put on the F wing, and they would have more luxuries. And what I mean by that is you would get out of your pad more, better pool table, because some of the wings haven't even got pool tables on them, they're that bad. But you get a decent pool table, bigger exercise yard, and you're mixed with prisoners that are more than likely going to keep the cells and behave themselves and not get into much trouble. But now that the sex offenders, what they've done is they've put them on that wing and give them all the luxury. So all the other lads, whether you're enhanced or not, or keep yourself out of bother, you're all mixed in together, and you haven't got that luxury of being over on the good wing. They have now got it. And most of the prisons are like that. So they keep the sex offenders separate from the main location, because when the main location lads, if they're ever found out about them, then the sex offenders get done in. And I've seen this happen because in Durham, when I first went in back in 2006, there was no protection. They had them all mixed in. And what normally happened was, when the local newspaper came around, which is the Evening Chronicle, you used to look in the paper and some of the lads would say, look at that, that's him, that's across there. And the lads would find out who he was. Well, not who he was, they would find out who it is, and they would go around and smash him in. The majority of the times, they were done with pool balls and socks. The lads would go up on association when everyone gets opened up for shower time or whatever, or go for exercise. They would either storm in the pad or wait for them to come out, catch them unaware. Most of the times it was from behind with the pool balls in a sock, and they would smash their heads in from behind. And these are the type of things that were happening to the sex offenders before there was protection in Durham. I've also seen one get sliced with a razor blade down his face, and they used to get kicked down the stairs because they've got big concrete stairs in Durham. And some of the lads, when you all get opened up for dinner, you're passing each other on the stairs. So this is where a lot of the times the sex offenders would come unstuck, because when they were walking up the stairs, the lads walking down, when they found out who they were, they would just boot them back down the stairs. So obviously that's why they brought in the protection in Durham and put them all onto F wing. But even in the bigger prisons like Franklin, they've got, I think down in Franklin, they've got about 4 or 5 wings that are actually for sex offenders. And most of the prisons that I've been in, they've actually got up in Northumberland and over in Franklin, like I've just mentioned, there's actually more wings of sex offenders than there is normal location. You wouldn't believe it, like when you get to prison, how many there actually is. There's more of them than there is of the normal lads. And but like I say, some of the lads, even now in Durham or Home House or wherever, some of these Bacons, paedophiles, sex offenders that I'm referring to, they choose not to go on protection. And the reasons why sometimes they choose not to, because someone who's in for rape thinks he's above someone who's in for raping a child molester. So he refuses to go and live with these types of people who's actually the same type he is. And they soon get found out because the screws, a lot of the times, the screws will come round. They'll either put a newspaper under your door, or they'll tell the likely lads, they'll say, listen, do you know what he's in for? He's in for doing such and such to children or women. And again, they get found out, and a lot of the times they'll get done in the showers as well, because in most prisons, in the showers, they're normally at the end of the wing. You go in, but the door's actually shut behind you. So 4 or 5 lads will go in the showers. If the paedophile's already in the shower, they'll go in the shower, shut the door, and stamp all over the paedophile, punch them all over. Things in socks they've used. I've seen lads with tins of tuna, because tins of tuna are quite, obviously you've seen the size of them, they're quite big. 3 or 4 tins in a big pair of socks, and they use that to wear people in. Or they've also used in Home House. I don't know if so much now, because as I was leaving Home House, they were going around searching the pads and getting rid of the porcelain cups, just like a normal cup like you have your coffee in. Lads were using them to smash people's heads in. Obviously, it can be used as an offensive weapon, and you can imagine getting hit over the head with one of them, or wrapped up in the side of a kit bag. A kit bag is what you keep all your bedding in when you first get to prison. You get a kit bag, or the kit bag is what you wash your clothes in. So put a cup inside of that, and they're using that to swing it round and smash you in the face with it. It's going to cause some serious damage. So these are the type of things that are happening to sex offenders in prison. Because in prison, it doesn't matter what wing you're on, any prison in any part of the country. If a sex offender is found out to be on the wing with normal location lads, he will not last longer than half a day when they find out about it, because they will not be tolerated at all in the prisons. So if your viewers, like some of you have asked, will be thinking that they're just walking around untouched, normal with the other lads around the wings, it's definitely not. They definitely won't last, like I've just mentioned, more than half a day once they're found out. Then they get put on protection. But even on protection, a lot of the paedophiles are getting done in there. I've done a couple of videos on them. One got disemboweled in Frankland prison, and the other one got severely punished and tortured, then murdered in HMP Full Sutton. I've done 2 videos on them, and they got, the ones that disemboweled the paedophile in Frankland prison, these 2 lads were in for murder, and obviously they looked at the cells as probably not being as bad as him, because they weren't in for child offences. So they went and acted out their own justice, and they went and disemboweled the paedophile in Frankland prison. And the same sort of thing was in Full Sutton. A murderer had went and served his own justice on another bad paedophile. And in his mind, obviously, he's acting out his own justice on this paedophile, thinking that he's not as bad as him. But some of the lads that are on protection with these paedophiles are actually lads that have been on normal location, and they're getting into debt, like a drug debt. They owe loads of money out of the gangs and the dealers on the wings, and they've put themselves on protection to get away from them. And obviously, when they're down there and they're bumping into, well, I'm not bumping into them, they're actually living with them, these lads actually end up doing the paedophiles in as well. So sometimes they get put on protection, and there is no protection at all, because they will come unstuck at some point along the way of somebody. But I'll leave that one there for now, people. Hopefully that's answered some of your questions about what happens to sex offenders in prison. Remember, again, if you're enjoying the content, remember to like and subscribe. Take care, everyone.